My name is Enson Inoue, and you're listening to Championship on the Line podcast.
Hey, everybody. This is Championship Online Podcast, and I am your co host, Alex, with my co host, Rich. And today is a very special edition of Championship Online Podcast of Knockout. We have a guest today. He is a former professional MMA fighter. He's fought over the world with Pride, UFC, Shudo, and it's an honor to have him. He's a legend of the sport. He is Enson Inoue, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing, Enson?
Right on. Good. I'm really good. Nice. Thanks for having me.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we're so excited. Like I was telling you before this, we're so excited to have you. We were like jumping out, like, oh my God, yes. Like, so because we were like freaking out. We're like, oh my God, like he said yes. So once again, we really appreciate it. And we thank you taking the time to be with us.
Right on, man. Let's have fun.
Awesome. So how's everything going, especially, with everything with this pandemic going on with COVID? How's it been over there in Hawaii?
Hawaii's been, back and forth on different types of lockdowns. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I'm not really that sure because I've been in Japan and I'm just in Hawaii right now, just to open up my shop that I have here.
Awesome. And then that's the Destiny Forever, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about your business with Destiny Forever?
It's Power Stone bracelets. I originally started wearing them in Japan because in Japan they believe it's a source of protection. Mm. So if something bad was coming to you, the bracelet, if the bracelet would mean to take it for you and break in place of you. So that's why I started wearing them, and I didn't realize that there are so many different gemstones in the world that actually had properties. So I just started making them for myself, and then when I got brave enough to put it on Facebook, people wanted to get some, and they also believe the power of the maker goes into the bracelet, the spirit of the maker. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of people that want me to make bracelets, and it's I enjoy it. I can sit in my shop all day and make bracelets all day, and I enjoy it. So it's more like a hobby turned business.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I was looking at your website, and man, the bracelets you have are very, very beautiful. You can tell that you took time to making them. It's very beautiful. Like I like all, because like I was looking at one, I think it was like I'm a fighter, and that one was like, wow. I was like that. I was like, that's my favorite one.
All right.
But that's awesome. So like, when did you actually decide? We're like, you know what? I'm actually going to do this for a business, and I'm actually going to put it on, for sale as a business side of it.
When I finally got good and put it on Facebook, and people started asking to buy it, I first denied them, saying that it's a hobby, it's not a business. Mm-hmm. And when the people who asked me to make them stuff were very persistent, I finally decided to give it a try. And the reason why it became a business because my whole Facebook page became a bracelet page. So I decided to open up a website, and from there, it just started taking off. The website did well. Came to Hawaii. I actually was doing a pop-up shop for just 2 weeks at a time. And that did really well to a point where I decided to find a spot. So I got a permanent spot here in Hawaii.
That's awesome, man. And, and especially like recently, there was a little little news, little headline. There was an incident with a shoplifter that happened in your store that was reading into this. And I was like, that's crazy. Like the fact that this guy, had the balls to actually go in your store and to like steal. I'm like, crazy. So like for the listeners that don't know, tell us little information on what happened.
Well, there's a mask mandate here for most of the business require you to wear a mask. So when this guy walked in, you could tell he was on drugs, and he was standing there and he didn't have a mask on. And my shop is all run by appointments only right now because of the pandemic. There's some, procedures for the pandemic. And this guy didn't have an appointment, came in and was standing without a mask. So the first thing I told him was, you need to put on a mask. And then he put out a mask out of his bag. And then I asked him, he had an appointment, and he told me, I don't have a phone. How can I make an appointment? So right there, I already knew there was some weird vibes on that. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I kind of like started watching. He turned towards some of the bracelets. I started watching him, and then he turned to the place where it had like the gold bunny clips and diamonds in the bracelets. And I was like, oh shit, I don't want to look like I'm a dick and not trusting him. But I kind of stood up so I could see what he was doing, and I just felt it was really bad. So I said again, you without an appointment, you have to leave. You don't have an appointment. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of starts walking away, and I didn't realize he had something in his hand until he turned towards me. Then I saw the little shine in his hand. He took one of the money clips. Mm. So what I did was I don't know. It's, all these kind of scenarios going through my head. Like, okay, I'm allowed to beat him up now. Am I allowed to beat him? He actually stole something. Okay, wait, no. Do I have to wait for him to get out of the shop? All these kind of thoughts went through my head. Like, well, okay, can I hit him? Should I hit him? I think I'm justified. And as all those thoughts were going out, I kept telling him to leave, to get out. And he finally like kind of squirmed out. And I actually made an attempt to grab him once, but after that, when he was leaving, I think something got the best of me. And I mean, something told me not to do anything. So I kind of let him go. And I followed him out just to make sure he left the building. Mm-hmm. And right when he left the building, he ran down. There's like a 2-story. I'm on the second floor, so he ran down the stairs, and he turns around and he tells me, "I'm going to come back and cut you up."
Oh no! Oh man!
Yeah, and right there, I was thinking, man, should I grab him and finish it? No, my knee's bad. I don't know if I can catch him. Should I use my car? Oh, but how am I going to get out and run and catch? I had all these scenarios. I was thinking that, he started getting further and further away, and I said, you know what? Just let it go. So I just let it go.
That's crazy, because like I remember watching the video, like you stood up and you kind of go like in the corner just to see what he was doing.
Yeah.
And then from the video, because me and Rich were like talking about it, like he kind of seemed like sketchy, like something didn't seem right.
Yeah,
like
you could tell. Yeah.
That's great. And is that like the first time this ever happened to you, like an incident like that?
Well, the first time I've caught someone stealing, I've not sure if anyone else has stole from me, because I don't catch them yet, but that's the first incident like that.
That's crazy. Lucky for him that you didn't get your hands on him, because he would have been done.
Yeah, I always had this scenario going on in my head. If I did get my hands on him, he'd probably start struggling, maybe knock down some tables, and maybe I might have hurt him, all these things going in my head. And I'm just saying, it's perfect how I worked out. He left the shop. I mean,
yeah.
Whether he comes back to cut me up is, another whole story. But if I do see him coming back, I definitely will meet him with a different energy, because knowing that he's here to hurt me.
Yeah, oh yeah. Especially, since what he wants, his purposes. Yeah, his intentions.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. And then also, like, did you see like any weapons that he had? Did you notice anything, like he had a knife or a gun or anything like that?
He just had a backpack, so I'm not sure if he had anything. When I first started cornering him in my shop, he got really scared. So I figured that if he had a knife or a gun, that's probably when he would have pulled it out. And I'm really glad he didn't, because if he had a knife or a gun, then I probably would have feared for my life. And I think I would have been a lot more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm glad. Glad didn't escalate to that.
And I'm glad that you're safe and like everything, your business is good, because you just never know in those types of situations, and yeah, man, it's crazy, because I was watching, like, man, the fact that he did this in front of you, like, because I'm guessing he didn't know who you were, so
no.
So it's crazy.
He probably still doesn't know who I am, so
that's crazy, but that's awesome. But I want to talk about more things. One thing I wanted to show you, so when I found out you accepted this, I was like, oh my god, I gotta show him this. So this thing, I have this in my collection. I collect a lot of like these action figures, like especially Japanese ones. So I have this one.
Look at that.
Yeah, who's that?
That's awesome. But yeah, because I was like, oh my god, I gotta show him this. Like, I have to, like,
That's cool, man.
So tell us about it. Like, what do you remember, like, the experience of your own action figure?
I I think we made 2 of them. Yeah, there was a bigger one that you can actually move the hands and take off the clothes and shit. There's one like that, and there's a little one, and yeah, I don't know. I thought it was cool, but I didn't really dwell on it at all. I don't even have any.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I actually had a stepson that I was taking care of, and the ones that they sent me, he probably broke them all playing with them. So yeah, I don't really have any, but that's cool, man. I mean, it's something that will always be around, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, to have that.
Yeah, and especially like I believe when he says like the pieces come out, because like I have a few loose ones without the box, and they're not like the best. Like the arms come off easily and the legs, so it's like
yeah.
But how do you feel when you like saw this in the first time and you saw yourself as a figure? Like, what was that reaction like?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I guess I was already really in the spotlight in a lot of things, so I was kind of used to being in magazines and stuff. So I think a figure was super cool, but it didn't hit me like a normal person would. Like if you just walked in the store and saw a figure of yourself.
Yeah,
it was kind of, I guess it kind of felt expected in a way that it was something that was going to happen. And when it did, it was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. It wasn't like, holy shit, a figure of me. It was more like, wow, that's pretty cool. They actually made a figure.
Yeah. And then how did it all come about? Like they reached you and they were like, oh, we want to make a figure of you.
Yeah, I actually think they went to Shuto, yeah? Or it was Pride. I think they talked to Pride and Pride hooked it up, and I don't remember any type of negotiation or royalties or anything.
Oh, okay. So you never like received any like royalty checks from like the figure?
No, I think, back in that day it was pretty much there was no money in it. There was no sponsorship. There was back in our day. Back in the OG days,
Did they at least send you like a case of figures?
I think they gave me like a dozen of them. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Okay. And I probably just gave them away and didn't even keep one for myself.
That's crazy because now, like, you look at it now, like, especially like the UFC, like now they have their own figures now. And now they're starting to make, they're getting royalties out of it, so it's crazy. Like you didn't get nothing from this figure. You like, I thought like me and Rich were talking about like, oh, you probably got like royalties from this figure, but that's crazy. Like,
no, nothing.
That's
it's
crazy.
all good. It's all good.
But at least like you go down in history, like you have a figure, like it's right there.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, you go on history saying I had a figure. I was on a video game.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. And then I was telling Rich too, because I was like, oh, you think I could ship this to him and he could sign this for me? Because I was like, oh, I was gonna ask you.
Well, you could send it to me. I'm in Hawaii, that's why. So it'll be like 2 or 3 days if you send it, and I can sign it for you.
Awesome. That'd be cool. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll send it. And, cool, because if you look at the back, like I have actually a lot of collection of Japanese figures.
Oh yeah,
so, like,
you do. Wow.
I got like the Coral Cops and all that stuff. So yeah, but yeah, like that'd be cool if I could get it signed. That'd be cool. I'll frame it and everything. It'd be cool. But yeah, hopefully.
Let's do it.
Awesome. And then also, I want to talk about more, with now, because the last fight was back in 2010, correct? So now with 2021, do you still follow the sport? Do you still watch the UFC events?
Oh, 100%, man. I'm a huge fan now. I follow the sport 100%. When there's a UFC on the weekend, it makes my weekend, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, because for us too, like during the week, we're like, oh, it's been like pretty bad week, but then Saturday it's like it's fight night, So
yeah. Then you got the embeddeds come out, the build up.
Yeah, the build ups.
I enjoy it, man.
And also, like, especially in today, like, who's your favorite fighter? Who's the one that you watch out for?
Well, I was gonna say Khabib. Khabib was. I love watching Khabib fight.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, rather than just the fighter, it's the matchups that I'm getting real excited about.
Mm-hmm. Do you like in your
I would have been excited for John Jones Ngannou.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I was totally on the last heavyweight with Miocic and Ngannou.
Yeah, especially like John Jones wants to move up, What are your thoughts on that? Especially, having such a big success in light heavyweight, and now he wants to move up and fight Francis, which people say it's a dangerous fight for him.
Well, yeah, but John is so good, and from my experience,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that besides the power, I don't think the heavyweights are better than the lightweights. They don't have as much stamina. They don't move as fast.
Mm-hmm.
And, John Jones, I think, is big enough that power won't be a problem. Of course, Ngannou's punch hitting anyone's head is going to be a big problem, but I believe he's mobile and agile enough not to get hit.
Mm-hmm.
Ngannou has a stamina problem. I think John will bring him into the later rounds. And, man, I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? He, knocks out Ngannou or even beats him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, as amazing as it would be, for me, it'd be pretty expected there's a good chance that would happen. I mean, the thing with Ngannou that I noticed is that guy is not a normal heavyweight. When I saw him doing some of the drills in the gym in the Extreme Couture, his movement, his fast twitch muscle, it was super impressive. I mean, I was pretty much looking at him like, I'm training a new kid, Tsuyoshi. He's an ex-sumo wrestler, but he picks up, he moves like Tsuyoshi, real fast, real explosive. Like when I saw Ngannou, the way he moved, I was thinking, man, this guy isn't even 30% of what he can be.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to get so much better.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But, can't bet against John Jones.
Yeah, that's true, especially, with experience, too. I feel like the experience is going to play a huge factor in this fight, too.
Yeah.
It's
going to be that. It's going to be whether or not Ngannou can land that one punch or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It is crazy too, because if John Jones could win this fight, he would be established as probably the greatest fighter of all time.
If not already, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. And also, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. Do you believe, we saw with Adesanya when he went up, to face Blachowicz? Do you think Jones would struggle going up, gaining that much weight going to heavyweight? Do you think that would be a setback, the weight gain?
Yeah, it would be something that he would need to work through. The stamina is going to be a little different. The speed's going to be a little different. Can he still execute the same type of amazing movements that he could when he was a lighter person? But I'm sure, he's a smart guy. He got a great camp. I'm sure they're probably working him through the mill in the gym so they can figure out his movement and his stamina. So at John Jones's level and his fight IQ, I can't see it being a problem. I'm pretty sure he'd worked all those rough edges out.
Mm-hmm. And also, I feel like John Jones he's being smart and taking the time to move up to heavyweight, not like Adesanya. He kind of looks like he just rushed it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, he's getting accustomed to the weight that he's slowly gaining.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a big difference.
And the same thing kind of like reminds me of like when Douglas Lima, when he fought Gegard. Like it seemed like he just rushed it when he fought for the title because he was from welterweight and he went up to middleweight. Same thing, kind of, And also one thing I wanted to get your opinion on, there's a big fight coming up with Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. I want to get your opinions on it and your prediction. What do you think is going to happen with that fight, especially the rematch too?
Man, I would pick Usman.
Mm-hmm.
Just not just the mental edge that he has from beating him before, but I just think he's a much better, well-rounded athlete. His movement, his all-around game. But hey, you can't Masvidal pulls off some crazy shit. So, and he's a scrapper, so scrappers always have a chance.
Oh yeah. And then especially like with everything with the trash talk too, it just makes this fight much exciting.
Yeah. As much as I'm against trash talk, because I would never do trash talk, it does make a little the thing exciting. I get more excited to watch fights that have trash talk.
But also, a lot of people were kind of, when they announced this fight, a lot of people weren't, too happy with it. They thought maybe Colby Covington should have got the shot. Do you agree with it, or are you happy that Masvidal got a rematch with it?
Yeah, it was good. I think the fact that he took a fight on short notice,
Mm-hmm.
I think the UFC likes to reward those people with a chance to have a full camp and do it again. So as much as there are other fighters that were probably more qualified as far as the rankings, Dana doesn't give a shit about the rankings.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But do you think he should follow more of the ranking guidelines instead of?
Yes, I think he should.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should, but I'm someone that's, appreciating the grind of all the other fighters, and I'm not running the business. So, Dana might also feel the same way personally, but when he has, the pressure of being one of the CEOs of the company or a part owner of the company, I think there's a lot of pressure to sell tickets and keep the UFC in the headlines. So, picking those headline fights, those big super fights over the rankings, sometimes the rankings won't draw as much of a crowd, but I wish he would follow the rankings.
Yeah, same. Because there's been times where like he gives it to like the fourth ranked fighter or the fifth ranked fighter, and it was like give it to the number one guy. He's number one for a reason.
Yeah. If not, there's no reason for rankings.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Rich. I'm like, if you're not giving the guy that's number one, then
what's the point?
What's the
point of it?
Yeah, bragging rights.
Yeah. But also, want to talk about also, especially with the sport, especially just combat sports in general, there's a lot of change, and especially, with YouTubers trying to go into the fight business. You've seen Logan Paul, Jake Paul try to get into the boxing. One of them's going to fight Floyd Mayweather, the other one's fighting Ben Askren. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think it's bad for the sport for guys to come in and kind of overshadow these other guys that have been doing this their whole life?
That's a hard question to answer because of the movement of the sport. Back in our day, yes, definitely. It's disrespectful, and it's not fair to the people who've been going through the grind. But that's in the eyes of a fighter who's fought in the day of when it was a martial art. It wasn't a sport, nor was it entertainment. We didn't have fight money. We didn't have fame. We didn't have anything. We fought to test ourselves. We didn't fight for money. We didn't fight for fame. So, in that sense, yes, I think it's very disrespectful. I think it's also disrespectful for pro wrestlers to come into the fighting arena without a proper build up and, getting the right fights and not straight up to the top. But, in this day and age now, man, I mean, it's going to sell tickets. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
yeah.
Jake Paul alone, his subscribers are going to be a huge crowd to view. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be against it. I mean, I wouldn't promote it in a way that if I was a promoter, I wouldn't try and make the fight happen. But I do want to watch it.
And also, what do you think is going to, especially with Jake Paul fighting Ben Askren, in a couple weeks, what's your prediction on that?
I think the percentage is with Ben Askren because of the experience. And, he's not a very good striker, but he does strike. And, I'm just wondering how good is his striking, because we've never seen it.
Yeah,
he's always taking people down. So his striking might be pretty good. We just haven't seen it. But, Jake Paul is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Jake Paul isn't just some big dude that's going in as a YouTuber and fighting. He's actually training and been training for 3 years. So Jake Paul has that chance as a bigger guy with a proper punch. And he punches properly. I mean, of course, maybe is he going to be able to keep his form when he gets tired? Is he going to be able to keep his form when Ben Askren's throwing punches at him and doing movement? That's a question to be answered, but he knows how to throw a punch. So if he throws a punch and it connects, being a bigger person, he does have a chance, So I think the percentages are definitely with Askren. But why I want to watch it? Because there's a chance Jake Paul might pull something off.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think the biggest, the biggest question is, can he? Because we've seen him fight all these. He fought Nate Robinson, who was a
basketball player. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he fought a YouTuber. So now we're gonna see if he could actually, stand up with these guys, especially for a professional fighter like Ben Askren.
Yeah.
And have you been seeing the training clips of Ben Askren?
Yeah, is he fucking around though?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. Because I was saying, Rich, I was like, what is he doing? And it looks like he's not trying.
Exactly. He has the best trainer in the world in Freddie Roach, and it doesn't look much.
Oh God.
Because he's doing mitt work with him, and it doesn't seem right. Like it's like his first time.
Oh shit! I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever saw that one. The one with Freddie Roach.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went over there with him, and I think he's been spending a part of his camp over there. I don't know if Freddie's going to be in his corner, but he's been spending a few weeks over there training with Freddie Roach, and it just doesn't, the way his movement, it just doesn't seem right.
Oh shit.
Because also you're seeing him, you could tell right away his game plan. He's going to try to push him against the ropes, go in the clinch, because that's all he's doing. He's trying to grab on and work in the clinch like a wrestler, pretty much, trying to grab him in the ropes. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's the best game plan to do that.
Yeah, turning it into a brawl, pretty much.
He's probably gonna make it ugly and try and get Jake Paul tired.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I was thinking about too. But then also it's dangerous because you're gonna walk in with punches too, with maybe uppercut. So it's kind of like, how's he gonna react to that?
I know it's gonna be interesting, man. Because it sounds like Jake Paul's really training hard for this, so it's gonna be interesting. I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Oh yeah, and then especially with the press conference they just had recently with both of them, and then Jake Paul had Masvidal on the phone. So it was just...
it's so freaking corny, man. I swear that would never happen in our day.
Oh yeah, especially times have changed, but I was saying to Mike, is it for the better or is it for the worse? Because like you said, back then they wouldn't allow this. They wouldn't allow him going into the sport. And also I want to get your thoughts too. What is it like, especially guys, legends are starting to make a comeback, like Mike Tyson, who just fought Roy Jones Jr., and then Oscar De La Hoya too. Do you think you think it's good for the sport for them to come back, or you think they should just stay kind of retired?
Well, I don't know. The Mike Tyson one was pretty interesting to watch, so I wouldn't be against it. I mean, it's to each his own. Yeah, I mean, if they feel they still have that drive, that fire, and they're willing to go to the camp to prepare, God bless to them, But to each his own, I don't want to. I don't ever want to. I don't ever want to train like that again. I'm not willing to die in the ring anymore, Things have changed for me.
And also kind of like Dana White kind of even said it, same thing. I don't want these guys taking more punishment.
That makes sense.
Because he was saying I love Mike Tyson, but I just don't want him see him getting punched anymore. Which I could, I can understand. But also you're still very into the sport. You're training guys. Like you were saying, you're training Satoshi
Sudario, yeah.
So what is it like training, working with him, and how did that relationship come about?
I don't really personally train fighters. There's some fighters in my gym that I would sometimes watch them train. The only one I used to train is my girl Sarah.
Okay.
She's a fighter too, so I was training her off and on. And actually what happened with this whole thing where I started training Sudario is I got COVID. COVID is pretty much what made it happen, because of COVID I couldn't travel. I used to travel I'd be half the time out of Japan. So I used to travel every other month pretty much, and I was at home. I had nothing to do. I got a call from Konishiki.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the ex-sumo wrestlers here, one of the big foreign sumo wrestlers. But he called me and told me that there's a kid that wants to fight MMA, ex-sumo guy, that he wants to introduce me to.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, COVID was there. I didn't realize I really wasn't traveling. So I was thinking, I don't train fighters because I can't put in that time. I can't dedicate that time you need to dedicate to fighters. And Skonitsky kind of told me okay, he fights in September. It's like 1 month later. I'm like, whoa, this guy's going to have his debut in 1 month. And he said, yeah, can you help him? Just get him as ready as he can. I said, okay, for that 1 month, I can do that. So training Sudario was actually for a 1 month thing.
Oh.
It was just for his September fight. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we were training, I guess he liked my style. He started respecting me a lot. After that first fight, he asked me if I could be his full-time trainer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and when he did that, I was like, shit. My first thought was, no, I can't dedicate the time. And then as I said that, I was saying, wait a minute, I don't have anything. I can't travel. I can't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, sometimes the universe brings you things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, COVID came, couldn't travel. I was bummed about that. But now all of a sudden, I got this kid, and I noticed, Tsuyoshi picks things up really fast.
Mm-hmm.
He's been knocking people out. I mean, they're giving him these pro wrestlers and stuff. So it's kind of disappointing that they're not giving a real good MMA fighter yet. But he definitely has the power. He's a solid MMA fighter. We haven't seen it because the fights ended so fast.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel that he is destined for the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Because I was saying, like he's undefeated, correct? Like he's 3-0, 4-0, right?
3-0.
3-0. And in his last fight, I think he set the record, right? It was like a 6-second knockout, which was crazy.
Yeah, rising fastest KO record. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And then was that your first fight working with him?
That was what? Excuse me?
Was that your first fight that you were working with him?
No, I've been working him with all three of the fights.
All three of the fights? Oh, okay.
So the September was his debut.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then so ever since September, he wanted to train under me. He wanted to train under me so bad. He was living down south in Yokohama.
Mm-hmm.
He moved up 3 minutes away from my house.
Oh, wow.
So he relocated to be near me so he could train under me.
That's crazy. That's
yeah. So we
that's
got a
awesome.
good relationship now. Yeah, that's the reason why I'm in Hawaii now. I'm working my shop, and on the 16th of April, he comes to Hawaii to meet me. And on the 19th, we fly over to LA, drive to Vegas, and I'm gonna take him to Extreme Couture's.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So my objective for this trip is, one, to get him to train with big boys, and get him to train with guys that are legitimate heavyweight MMA fighters.
Mm-hmm.
That way he can gauge, he can see where he stands. I also want to see the new technology that, Eric Nicksack them are doing. Can learn a lot from watching them coach. And I want to introduce Yoshi to Dana. Yeah, but I don't have Dana's cell number. I've been emailing him and Twittering him. He usually answers his email, but he hasn't answered me yet. So shout out, anyone see this? Message Dana, let him know I'm be in town, and if he's in town, I want to catch up with him and introduce him to Tsuyoshi, to Sudario.
That's awesome, because he, it's crazy because he's only had 3 fights and he has the power, and and it just, but like you said, he needs a little bit more time because he's finishing these guys like really quick. He's knocking out these guys pretty fast.
We need more ring time too, man. He needs more ring time.
Oh yeah, of course, and especially taking him to Extreme Couture, he's gonna get experience, training with some of the top guys, especially over there at Extreme Couture.
Oh yeah, it's for sure, man. Very excited. I'm really excited for it.
That's awesome. And then also, like you're saying, he was fighting in Ryzen, especially Ryzen is kind of like the new Pride. What are your thoughts on the product that's Ryzen's been doing?
Oh, very good, man. The events in Rising are actually starting to have that little feeling of old time Pride,
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the arenas aren't as big. They're going to have one in Tokyo Dome this next month.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so up until now, the arena, even the Saitama Super Arena, it's a
Mm-hmm.
movable arena. So they can make it to like 50, 80,000. They can make it 30, 15,000. So it's come to a point where they haven't really opened it up to that 50,000, 80,000 arena yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the feeling is getting better. Sakakibara's, I think, is doing a good job with it. But and getting it on TV, so that's important.
Yeah.
But it's not like it was, but I believe it's on its way.
That's awesome. And especially like even because this is not the first thing, because after Pride, he did Dream 2. And then Dream, and then come with Ryzen. But since doing Pride, how much has he changed as an owner and a promoter from doing Pride to now Ryzen?
I don't think he's changed at all. Appearance-wise, he hasn't changed. That guy's like a vampire. He hasn't aged.
Yeah, he looks the same. Yeah,
unreal. Huh? But I think he's doing the same. The way he used to do Pride is the same way he does Rising. He loves the entertainment side to it. He loves the freak show.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he made my guy fight Minoa. So yeah, I don't think there's much of a change. He loves and he's always loved MMA.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, and especially like with the fights he was doing, like Floyd Mayweather fought in Ryzen. I think no one ever expected that, like for him to fight over there. And then and what are your thoughts on that too? When Floyd Mayweather came, and then he was fighting a kickboxer, especially a young one too.
Yeah, well, it was boxing match, yeah. So
yeah,
and this kid was way smaller than him, and of course, his boxing was not even on a level near Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Floyd knew that. Floyd went in there and was just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty much a cakewalk, man. It's like, I think it's like almost like a publicity stunt for Floyd, and I think for Sakakibara too. Just bring some interest, bring some eyes to Rising. I don't think he really thought anything was really going to come of that. But yeah, he's meeting with them again. He just last week was in Vegas again, so there's something brewing. He's talking to Mayweather.
Yeah, because I saw the picture. It was him and Mayweather and Dana White.
Dana White too, yeah.
And I was like, "What? Like, what is going on?" Like, I was like, "Oh, something's big is gonna happen."
No, what happened with that was he was meeting with Floyd. He flew up. This is the second time this year he's went up there to see Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
I think Floyd just called Dana and said, "Hey, come over here just to surprise Sakakibara."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool if something was if something was brewing, but I highly doubt that. I think it just was one of those things that Dana stopped over at Floyd's house.
Mm-hmm. That would be cool if they were to do something. That would be awesome, especially like if they were to collaborate.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
But also, like we were talking about, things in sport have changed, starting to change, especially with bare knuckle fighting. Your friend, Chris Lieben, he retired with his last fight. He looked amazing too, with the knockout. What are your thoughts on bare knuckle? Do you like the sport? Do you think it's gonna be successful?
Damn, I bare knuckle. I wish when I was an active fighter that was there. I would have loved to do that. Yeah, I think it's really neat because it really changes a lot of the game. You don't have gloves on. It doesn't protect your hands now. So you can't just go ballsy crazy and just throw as hard as you can. You have to be smarter. You have to probably select your punches better.
Mm-hmm.
The cuts, the damage on your face is going to be worse. So you got to really be more careful, more head movement, and it's more barbaric. I mean, I just something about not having gloves on that is it stirs that little ego in men, that little fire, like, oh, fuck, I want to try that,
And it's crazy too because there's other promotions and they started to do. I know Ken Shamrock had his own too bare knuckle promotion.
Oh, really?
We have Valor BK, I think it was called, Rich. Valor.
Yeah, I think it was Valor, I think.
And And it's crazy because we had Chris Lytle on the podcast last year, and he was talking about little by little they're starting to get regulated from states, from some states. Do you see this
Yeah,
being? Do you see bare knuckle being as big as probably like the UFC or Bellator?
not in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's too many little wrinkles to iron out on it.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a little more interference because of the brutality of it. I think because
Yeah.
there's no gloves. I think
Mm-hmm.
be hard to get, commissions and people to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it will in the future. It will be big, but not anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Chris Lytle was telling us it's kind of difficult, a little bit, because I think they only have like about 6 states right now, so it's kind of hard for them to get approved. But then again, they're signing some big names. Paige Van Zant just signed with bare
Yeah,
knuckle, which is a big a big move for them. But but it's just crazy how we never would have thought bare knuckle would exist. Especially with the wraps, and it's crazy like how it's much safer than like boxing with the gloves. I was like, it's insane.
it is. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
But also want to talk about the beginning of your career. I want to talk about what made you want to like start in mixed martial arts. What made you want to be a fighter?
It was about testing myself in the ring. I wanted to test myself as a man. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make myself a stronger person. And the training to get in the ring and getting in the ring itself, I feel is something that puts a lot of pressure on you. I mean, there's no other sport in the world that the objective of the sport is to kick someone's ass.
Mm-hmm.
Be any type of martial art. It's not like a basketball game or a football game. So the anxiety and the fear element involved, you really need to be emotionally stable. You need to be able to control your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I felt that as a man, as the one who has to protect the family, as the one who has to go out and, if there's an intruder in the yard, we have to go out. I think it just better prepares you for everyday life. When the day comes when I have to protect or save someone that I really care about, I don't want to be affected by the anxiety and the fear, and I felt that getting in the ring was the closest thing to being able to practice that without really, having a chance of dying. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why I got in the ring. It was to test myself. It was to build myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've never ever took a fight saying, I want to fight that guy because I know I can beat him, because I felt that then it wouldn't be a test.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I picked fights that probably fighters today wouldn't pick because it probably wouldn't be good for their name and their record.
Mm-hmm.
But I fought fighters that I thought would break me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I chose my fighters. When I chose Mark Kerr, when I chose, Randy Couture, it was all about fighters that I'm not supposed to beat, that's supposed to overwhelm me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew if that was the case, it would put me in a real, uncomfortable spot where I'm either getting beaten up or the anxiety's taking over, and I wanted to grow as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I actually got in the ring.
That's awesome, because you don't really, because especially in today, I think people always try to pick fights where, oh, I know I can win. They don't want to like really, they don't want to test. And especially back, in the 90s, everyone fought each other just to fight. And especially with you were saying, you want to fight to test yourself, and I feel like that's how you get better. You fight the best guys, and you learn from it, and you prove from it. And especially like for us, like Rich and I, like we got into martial arts because we were being bullied. We were kids.
Really?
So, I mean, I would get beat up, and I got to the point where I went to my dad, I'm like, I gotta defend myself because it's just, I don't want to get beat up anymore. And then,
oh wow, that's cool, man.
And then I fell in love with it, and I still do it to this day. I love learning, but it's just crazy how life, it's just leads up to it, and now you're doing it, pretty much your whole life. So it's crazy.
Yeah. I train martial arts to test myself as a person. And little did I know that it would actually mold my whole life.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Martial arts has made me who I am today.
That's awesome. I love to hear like stories like that because like same thing like with us, like we go to tournaments, especially like jiu-jitsu tournaments, and there's no one in our weight class, so we have to like step up to like face the bigger guys or heavyweight.
Oh shit! Right on.
So it's like, you know what, like F it, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna test myself. You know, yeah, the guy's bigger than me, but you know, I wanted to go over there and test myself. You know,
right on. That's the attitude, man.
Yeah, and it's the way to do it too, because that's the way you learn. You know, especially you facing a guy you know you can beat. It's like you don't learn from that.
Yeah, I agree.
But also, you know, want to talk about, you know, your first fight in your career was in Shudo, and it was against Shingo Shigeta. And talk about like, what was the nerves going in, you know, stepping in Shudo and fighting for the first time. What was it like?
It was nerve-wracking because I've been in a lot of street fights, but as you know, street fights, you don't get any nerves for it because it just happens.
Yeah.
And when it just happens, you're mad, you're angry. So that's why you're street fighting. So there's so much adrenaline and it suddenly happens. There's no time for a build-up or nerves to affect you. You know, when you know 3 months ahead that there's someone else training to kick your ass and you get into the ring, it's you and him, there's people watching, there's videos running, you know, it's like, there's so much more pressure that I remember the thing that I recall the most about that first fight was the mount wasn't as easy to finish the fight as everyone made it seem. Everyone made it seem like you got the mount, it's over, you just pummel them. Man, when I got the mount and I was hitting him, I actually started getting tired punching from the mount. I was like, oh shit, this isn't as easy as they make it sound.
That's crazy. And then like, because like at the time, like the Shudo president was Satoru Sayama, correct?
He was the founder.
The founder, okay. And what was like? Was there ever a meeting with him, and like, what was he like?
When I first started Shuto, that's the gym that I went to. When I decided I wanted to try and fight, I called all different associations, and Shuto was the only one that kind of just straight up told me, "Oh, come down." So I went down. The founder was there, Sayama Satoru was there, and I started. You know, I called him and said, I did your Gracie Jiu-Jitsu before. I wanted to see if I could, you know, have an amateur fight or, you know, get in the ring once just for experience. And he told me to come on down. So I went down there, met Sayama, and they wanted me to spar with a guy. I sparred with him, and, you know, they didn't understand Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So I took control of the ground, you know, the positions, mount, take his back. And after the sparring, I remember Sayama sitting down and looking at the kid and going, "Oh, we can use him." And I was saying, "What does that mean? I can use him?" And he asked me if I could 3 months later, if I could make my debut fight.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Oh," I said, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, pros." I was like, "Whoa, no, pros." So he told me, "Yeah, don't worry. I'll get you ready." So I moved. I was living more up north at the time. And I actually drove down to the gym, slept at the gym every night, and trained. And Sayama, you know, taught me how to tackle, taught me how to strike. And, you know, that's how it happened, man, the first fight. And it was nerve-wracking.
That's crazy. Yeah, because I always kind of hear stories, especially like back like in the day. It's like even heard stories like Ken Shamrock was saying, like the way he got into Pancras was like a tryout, pretty much.
Yeah,
you know?
I actually called Pancras too before I went to Shuto, and they told me that there's a new boy tryout that I have to wait for. And as I was waiting, I called Shuto.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then eventually you end up becoming the Shudo heavyweight champion. What was that feeling like for you when you won the fight and you were the champ?
It felt really good because I knew that the first champ will always go down the history books as the first champ ever. So it was I was really happy to get that. And I actually could have went down to light heavy, but like I said, it was about testing myself. So I was in there thinking, okay, I want to go into a lighter division and become the heavier guy in the lighter division. I always felt that regardless of which champion you're talking about, the heavyweight will always be the best.
Mm-hmm.
John Jones might prove that wrong, but I believe that a good heavyweight will always beat a good lightweight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, totally agree. And also, like, what was it like fighting in Japan? Like, especially with the culture side of it, because I know it's a huge difference in the United States. So, what was it like fighting in front of that crowd?
They're real quiet, they're really educated, and they're real polite.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll scream and they'll moan and they'll clap, and when someone makes a transition to a better position. But you don't ever hear that kind of kill him, fuck him up. There might be a heckler once a year maybe, but more than that, you just have people, clapping and cheering when they're doing better, or trying to give them, words that, oh, try hard, keep going, but it's different, man. You don't have that. How could I best describe it? That retarded type of mentality as the American fans have.
It seems like they appreciate the grappling more compared to the States. They just want to see a knockout.
Yeah, well, I think all that shows is that the Japanese crowd is a lot more educated. So they understand, side control. They understand the danger of the mount. And doesn't need to be something that is you're just throwing blow for blow, or you're at the top pounding the shit out of the guy. I think the understanding that the technique, it makes you appreciate every little movement a lot more.
Well, of course, and because we had fighters in the past, and in the podcast, and they fought, in Japan. Even wrestlers too, we had, and they always have great things to say about Japan. Like, they love it so much. Like, oh, the fans over there are the best. Kind of better than the United States.
The fighters are really polite too. Yeah. They're really careful about disrespecting. When it's your private time, they don't come over and just rudely ask you for a picture. They're real careful. They're real polite and real respectful.
Yeah, because I'm always telling, like, Rich, because we've been, like, a few fights, especially the UFC fights, and you have these crowds where, most of the time they're drunk, and then they want to fight everyone.
Yeah.
And then there's times where, like, they take a guy down and they're booing, and it's like, oh my god, he just took this guy down like a beautiful double leg takedown.
Yeah, how hard that was to take him down.
So I was like, oh, like, you really, like, you're booing that? So that's why, like, our dream was always go to Japan, because, like, I feel like the fans over there are so, they're so respectful, and they appreciate even the small things too. Even like kicks or punches or even takedowns too, or submission attempts. Like, they, appreciate it, especially like the reaction, like, ooh, like, this is crazy.
Yeah, just like passing the guard, to say, ooh, you can hear them roll. Yeah.
But also, we want to talk about, like, you had your career in judo, and then also you had a fight in the UFC. What was that like, and how did that come about, you going over there to UFC?
I got a fight offer to fight in the lightweight tournament. And I, at the time, UFC wasn't the biggest, it wasn't the best thing to be in. But I know UFC felt at the time, it still was bare-fisted. And something about being in a cage, I wanted to experience. It brings out that animal feeling of being locked in a cage with another man. And I think the UFC 13 was the last UFC that they allowed you to choose to fight bare-fisted. So which I chose to fight bare-fisted. And I just felt that I wanted to try that out. It wasn't like I want to be in the UFC, because the UFC was a shuto. If anything, Pride was a lot bigger than UFC. So it was more, I love the rule set. I love the cage. I love the, the bare-fistedness. And that's pretty much the reason why I really wanted to fight in the UFC.
Mm-hmm. And also, did you like the octagon better than the ring?
I like the octagon better because it's more. No one can fall out of the ring,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more like one man in, two man in, one man out kind of thing. Yeah, I kind of like the atmosphere of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I really didn't mind fighting in the ring either.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, in your fight in the UFC, you fought Royce Algerie. What were your thoughts, fighting him, and what did you know about him before that fight?
I knew he was a wrestler, one of the top wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
I also knew wrestlers had a bad habit of exposing their arms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the whole hype in the whole UFC was about Royce Alger, and that kind of pissed me off. But understandably, he was a well-known NCAA champion.
Mm-hmm.
His corner was Coleman at the time, the heavyweight champion at UFC.
Mm-hmm.
So that was understood. But yeah, it was more though. I think the tournament was based around Royce to win.
Yeah, and then like finishing him, but especially like in UFC, I felt like they try to push wrestlers like we saw like with Jackson when he fought Shamrock. Shamrock, because they're like, oh, Gomez wrestling, and he gets finished,
Yep. And I think that was about the time when wrestlers were learning about arm bars. Yeah.
Yeah. But did you kind of knew that was a UFC were kind of pushing for getting these, wrestlers into the sport?
Well, I knew the danger of a wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew they weren't as technically sound as the jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a pros and cons to their game, and I just felt that it was my job to expose, the part that where I can come on top, expose his weaknesses instead of him exposing my weaknesses. So it was exciting because you don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I remember watching that fight. I was like, oh my god, he caught him like perfect. It was so cool because like I feel like because Rich is a wrestler, he kind of goes more for wrestlers, and then I'm more
being blast.
But it's great because, and then I'm more of like, because I did boxing, that was like my first art I did.
Oh, I see.
So I go for strikers, go for wrestlers. But it's just crazy because like you see like high level wrestlers and then they get submitted, and it's like wrestlers I feel like wrestlers always have to do more grappling, more jiu-jitsu, because but also you've had then you fought Randy Couture, you beat him for armbar. What are your thoughts on that match, and and thoughts on Randy Couture going in before that fight?
Well, I think Randy Couture at the time he's coming from the heavyweight. He just beat up Maurice Smith for the heavyweight title. So I think he just beat up Vitor Belfort.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I knew how good he was, and I knew I possibly might be biting more than I could chew. But I wanted to test myself, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made me a little annoyed when everyone was already counting me out from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, although I did know that in the beginning that I'm a total underdog, just the way everyone really counted me out, I my whole thinking was, man, he's human. If I grab his arm, I'll break it. If I get a token, he'll go to sleep. So don't count me out, man. He has two legs like I do. He has two arms like I do. It's not like he has 5 arms or he's 10 feet tall or anything. So it kind of did annoy me that I was being counted out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just inspired me to train harder. So, and that fight, I mean, my whole idea about that fight was just put pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we came out straight up, I came up and inside leg kicked them. When I was on the ground, I up kicked them. I stepped came over to the side and roundhouse kicked them. So that was my whole idea, was to put pressure on them. Mm-hmm. And, things just fell into place, man. It was a picture perfect fight.
And also, how did it feel like when you submitted with the armbar and you go up and you raise your hand and the crowd's going crazy? How did it feel in that moment?
Yeah, well, the first feeling I had was when I locked in the armbar. My forte was my armbar in jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And when I locked it in, it was like, holy shit, it's deep.
Mm-hmm.
Then he tried to pull out. I was thinking, oh, he's doing like jiu-jitsu 101, know what not to do, pulling out of the armbar. And then when he fell on his face and I felt his elbow popping in my crotch, my first thought was, holy shit, I'm gonna break his arm.
Oh, no.
The next thing I remember is him tapping my calf area. He was tapping my leg.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thought went in my head was like, holy shit, Randy Couture is tapping. And then when I got up and raised my hands in the air, I just felt what I felt like was, all you motherfuckers who doubted me, look. That's kind of how I felt.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it wasn't like, yeah, I won. It was more like, you guys thought I was gonna lose, huh?
Mm-hmm. Like I proved you guys wrong.
Yeah, exactly. In your face.
That's awesome. And then, like, was there ever like talks of like a rematch or anything like that?
Oh no! Now that you think about it, no, they've never talked about a rematch. I've never been approached with a rematch. I would have loved to, but it was never approached with a rematch.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, because I would have thought like, oh, maybe there was like a talks, maybe, or he maybe wanted a rematch after that.
No, nothing happened.
Man, that's crazy. And also, like, take us back, with your debut in Pride. How did that come about? You going into Pride, and what was it like to, with the business side over there in Pride? Because I always hear stories how it was a little bit different.
I was offered fight in Pride after Randy Couture,
Mm-hmm.
and the Pride treated me really well. I had no problems with Pride. I know they treated the foreigners different.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of clout in Japan. I don't take shit. They can't throw Yakuza power on me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't fear them. They know I don't fear them. And they know I won't take shit. So they treated me really well.
Mm-hmm.
Really fair.
That's awesome. And then, like, was there any? Because I always hear stories of how, like, especially with the Yakuza, kind of like interfering with contracts and with the fighters too. I've heard like stories where, fighters were losing on purpose. Did you ever see that, or was there any talks in that?
No, I was never aware of any fighters losing on purpose. Besides Takada having weird fights with Coleman and Kerr,
Yeah.
Other than that, Takada's a pro wrestler, so
Yeah.
I didn't like when people do that kind of stuff in our ring.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand also that there is a show and Takada's a big name in Japan, so getting to win would be very good for the promotion. So I understand all that. So that's cool too. But I didn't like that. And I've never been approached with that. The Yakuza has never, in my eyes, have never interfered with any fights.
Mm-hmm.
They do love it. They do want to be a part of it, but I've never had, the Yakuza never negotiates or is a manager for a fighter. So they've never got into that ability to negotiate and, strong arm somebody, So all the associates are connected to Yakuza. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember watching like the Takada, and like Coleman, they asked him, he was like, "Yep, he got me," and then that was it. Like he didn't want to like talk about it.
Yeah.
He was like, "Yep, he got me," and did my jujutsu, and that's it. Like he kind of like made a hint, like,
yeah.
But was there any? Because like obviously, like Pride, they sold to the UFC, and I remember, watching an interview like the UFC, Dana White was saying how, when they bought Pride, there was, he kind of thought he was buying the contracts of the fighters, and there wasn't any contracts at all with Pride having fighters. What was it like, especially with Pride dealing business with them? Was it kind of different dealing with business of another company like Shudo or UFC?
No, back in the day, it was all one fight contracts. It was never
okay.
Nobody ever had nobody was ever contracted by Pride.
Oh, okay.
We're all contracted for one fight at a time.
Okay, that makes sense because I always thought like maybe it was like long-term deals, but it
No,
was just
that's
one
why
fight.
when Dana bought Pride, he assumed that they were all under contracts, but no one was under contracts.
Mm. Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, because I was just thinking of like, yeah, because I would have thought like contracts, but yeah, that's crazy. It was just only one fight. That's crazy because but then again, it's also kind of good too because you could do your one fight and then you could go somewhere else too. It's not like you were obligated to stay with that one company. When you look back in your career, which fight would be, what was your proudest moment in your MMA career?
Um, because I fought for learning about myself. My
Hmm.
biggest best fight for myself was the Igor Vovchanski.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it taught me the most about myself. I learned the most
Hmm.
about myself in that fight than any other fight. As far as personally, that was the best fight. Um, as far as career wise, would probably be Randy Couture's win. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Awesome. And then who like in all your fights, who hit the hardest?
As far as surface on the surface where I felt I was getting bruised was Mark Kerr,
Mm.
and internally was Igor.
Mm.
The punches really felt different.
Mm. That's crazy, yeah. Because like I remember watching those fights, and then with your fight debut too. When you look back in your career, you know,
Yeah.
when you look back in your career, what would you say, like, especially like you said with the Igor fight? Because it's crazy because you don't see guys talk about, with losses, but with you learned from it, and it was, which is, awesome to hear because you don't see guys talk about, especially the losses, but for you learned from it and it made you better.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that the victory in the fight isn't whether your hand gets raised in the ring or not, but it's more
Mhm.
if you can learn from it and become a better fighter the next fight. I
Mhm.
think that's the real victory.
Mhm.
So yeah, my whole career, man, I don't think I've ever lost.
Because they always say like you're either winning or you're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or you can win and learn at the same time.
that's true. Very true. And then also I want to talk about one more thing before we kind of end this. I want to get your thoughts, especially like you were in a movie with Red Belt.
Mhm.
What was that experience like for you?
Amazing, man. The magnitude of a Hollywood production is incredible. I mean, it's like it's the amount of people that's a part of the whole production. The
Mhm.
gourmet meals they serve every day, and I, I
Wow.
had the opportunity to work with David Mamet,
Mhm.
and I mean, even if my off days, I would come in on the set and watch them film and watch them work. Man, it was a probably something that I really didn't plan to do, and when I got the contract to do it, I didn't want to do it,
Mhm.
but it's like something that I'm really glad I did, man. It was such an experience, and it was a once in a lifetime experience.
Mhm. That's awesome. Would
Yeah.
you ever like and then did you ever do anything else in acting too? Or
Yeah,
did
I
you ever
did
thought
some
to do it full
for
time?
I did some appearances on Hawaii 5-0.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's
Yeah, so just small parts here and there, playing the yakuza, playing the bad guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I mean, it's not only a good experience, it's not only good exposure, but you get residual checks every month,
Mm.
and that ain't bad.
That's awesome. Yeah, because like my dad actually loves that show, Hawaii Five O. It's one of his favorite shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he loves that show. He watches
That's
like every
awesome.
week.
That's awesome, man.
Awesome. But once again, I actually have one more question. If there's any advice out there, especially guys, people listening, you know, any advice you give to a person that wants to become a fighter, what can you give them advice on training and even the business side of it?
Um, Find a gym that treats you like family. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, second is time on the mat, time in the ring is very important. If you want to get your ground good, get on the mat, get on the mat, get on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing is, which is most important, is if you have any injuries, heal them properly.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rush back into the gym. If the doctor says stay out for 2 weeks, stay out for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you see guys in the gym and they're injured and they're fighting,
Yeah.
50-50.
They're
And it's
rushing
like,
to come back.
yeah,
It'll
be
all
smart.
catch up to you. It'll all catch up if you don't heal it properly.
Mm-hmm.
I
Exactly.
speak from experience.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But once again, an honor to have you. Really appreciate you taking the time. We really enjoyed this conversation. It was fun for me, and I know for Rich too. So awesome, and we thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, man, and thank you guys for promoting and doing stuff for the sport of MMA, man. I appreciate
of course.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you, especially everything you've done with your career, all the fights you've given us. We thank you.
Right on.
And
Right
also,
on,
before we wrap up, anything you want to plug in, social medias for fans to reach you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Check it out. And check out my page, my bracelet page, destinyforever.com.
Awesome.
There's a media section that has all my media stuff. There's all the volunteer work I did up north. Check it out. It's an interesting page.
Awesome. There you go. And then we'll put also when we post, we'll put all the links up there, social medias and all in your page too. So we'll put all that stuff in there.
Okay, and send me the link so I'll share it and blast it on my social media.
We'll do.
Will
And
do.
again, thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks, guys,
amazing.
man. Appreciate it. Right on, man.
Awesome. And then that's going to
Keep in
do it for
touch.
us with Championship Online Podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys for listening. And we're going to see you next time on Championship Online Podcast.